Hello, my name is James Miller, and I want to welcome you to Come and Dine. I tell you what, I kind of feel out of whack. It's been a week since I've done a video, and I think it's probably been going on too since I've posted a video on YouTube. The lesson I'm going to teach today is going to be a while before I can get the King James Bible. Why do I use the King James Bible? It's taken me into a depth that I did not anticipate. And I want to do this right. I want to share with you why I use the King James Bible as opposed to what they would call the modern translation today. The lesson I'm going to teach is Daniel's in the Lion's Den. And this is a Sunday school lesson that I got to teach at the beginning of August. Now, once a month, I get the privilege and the opportunity, and I don't take that lightly, to teach the senior citizen Sunday school class. And I share that with Brother Randy. I get one Sunday, and he gets the rest. And I tell you what, I'm just happier than a pig in a pig pen just to get to teach once a month. But Brother Randy told me, he says, if you see a lesson that you like, you can have that lesson. So, one Sunday, I think it was Sunday or Wednesday night, I went up to Brother Andy. I said, Brother Andy, I see a lesson I want to do, and it's called Basic Bible Stories. That's the entitlement of the whole series of lessons. And boy, he straightened up, and he said, boy, you ain't getting Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. And because, he wanted that, the Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Now, their Hebrew name is, if I'm not mistaken, this is Hananiah, Azariah, and Mishael. That is their Hebrew name. When they was given the Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego is a pagan name that pays attribute to their little g gods. I said, no, Brother Randy, you can have that. I just want Daniel's in the Lion's Den. Of course, the aim of this lesson is to be like Daniel. Now, if you ever want an example of what it's like to be a good Christian, you can take your attributes after Daniel. Daniel was just a great man in the Bible. This is so great, and I can't get into the details. I gotta share with you later. But that is the aim, is to try to be like Daniel. There are two types of people that we can talk about. There are those that were not raised in the church. Some that they fell into a great sinful lifestyle, but in the end they got saved. And some of these, like the woman at the well, she came at noon carrying a bucket. Jesus was there, and Jesus says, "Give me water." And of course, we know about that story. If you know your Bible, they had that interaction, and Jesus says, "I can give you this living water," and she wanted that living water, and as a result, Jesus knew her sin. He knew that she had 5 husbands. The man that she was with now, she was not married to him. But in the end result, she drops her water bucket. She goes into the town. She goes and says, "Hey, come and listen to a man that told all about me." Then we got the Apostle Paul, who was Saul, who wreaked havoc on the church. And then you got Mary Magdalene, who had 7 devils that was possessed of her. And then you got the group of people, that they grow up in church. They are literally brought up in church. That somebody says, I was drugged. I was drugged Sunday morning, drugged Sunday night, and Wednesday night. Now here's the thing: there's no difference between two of them. They were both sinners. They're both fallen. But the same thing about it is the people that were raised in church. And I will tell you, I was not raised in church. If I could have it, I would love to have the opportunity and the privilege to be raised in church. Because I'll tell you, if you was raised in church, thank God that you had a Christian mom and dad that was there to take you to church. If you are being raised in church right now, thank God. Because I'm going to tell you right now, they are protecting you from the bad stuff that is in this world. And there are bad stuff in this world. But the people that will probably be in that group of being like raised in church will be an example of Samuel, John the Baptist, Hananiah, Azariah, and Mishael, and of course Daniel. Now, before I get into the lesson, there is some very interesting facts about the book of Daniel. And I do like to read commentaries. I like to read little books, try to study up and just get down into find a golden nugget. As I say, you ain't going to find gold unless you do some digging. And I came across this, and this guy broke down the chapter that we're in, which is, forgive me, we're going to be in Daniel chapter 6. It's an evil plan. And what it is these men, they instigated to set a trap for Daniel because they were jealous of him. And then it was in this plan, that evil plan was, in the end, Daniel was going to get thrown into the lion's den, and they were hoped that he was going to get killed off by the lions. The second thing is called a kneeling man. Daniel continued to pray on his knees. And then you got a heavenly band. And what I like about that is Daniel is delivered by God's angel who shut the mouth of the lion. Of course, we know the theme of Daniel is built around Daniel. Now, here's the thing. 3 times Daniel is described as being greatly beloved. Of course, he has the touch of God on him. I mean, he's able to interpret dreams. Of course, he was taken as a teenager when Babylon assaulted the Judea, when Israel. He held office under 3 successful kings. I mean, there's amazing things. It was Nebuchadnezzar, Belshazzar, and Darius. Some say that he lived the whole 70 years and saw the return under Cyrus. Now, he did not go back himself because probably at this time, Daniel was probably in his 90s. Here's some things that what we can know about Daniel, and that is he was of royal blood from a high-ranking family. He was handsome, cultured, and intelligent. He had to be because Nebuchadnezzar wanted the best of the best of the best that he took away from Israel. The thing about what we can know, another thing we can know about Daniel is that his purity, his consecration, his wisdom, his courage, and his humility, and his unselfishness. He was unselfish always, and his love. Now, what a lot of people don't realize is that Ezekiel and Daniel are contemporaries to each other. And Ezekiel mentions Daniel as being righteous and being wise. He had wisdom. Now, Daniel had the chance to talk to 2 archangels, and that was Gabriel and Michael. Jesus even speaks of Daniel in his Olivet discourses. You can find this in Matthew chapter 24, verse 15. And here's the thing. Daniel is to the Old Testament what the Revelation is to the New Testament. I guess the whole thing about Daniel's life is Daniel was a man that dared to keep a clean heart, mind, and body. That's something that we should work on as Christians. Let's keep a clean mind, a clean heart, and a clean body. Now, the book of Daniel reveals the power of God and his universal sovereignty, and his power contrasts to the world's power. He's God the keeper. He kept Daniel and his companions together. He's God the revealer of the secrets. That's chapter 2, where he revealed the king's dream to Daniel. He is God the deliverer when he delivered the 3 Hebrew boys from the fiery furnace. He's God the potent. And this is chapter 4 where Nebuchadnezzar got full of pride. He thought that whole kingdom was because of his own doing. And what he didn't realize is that he was there because of God. And as a result of that pride, God struck him down. He lived like an animal. God the judge, Belshazzar, and the handwriting on the wall. I mean, when you get a chance, check out Belshazzar. In the end, his knees were shaking and he died that night. And then God the all-powerful, delivering Daniel from the lion's den. Now, the book of Daniel is broken up into 2 sections. You got the narration, the historical. That's from chapter 1 through 6. And then you got the Revelation prophetic chapters, which is chapters 7 through 12. Now, here's the thing. Now, as a youth, Daniel stood the test coming to Babylon. And he always stood that which was right. Now, here comes the bigger test. it's the second biggest. He is the second biggest man in the kingdom, kind of like Joseph was in Egypt. But he has these tests, and now here's the big test, and he's able to take that testing. So what it was, Daniel was promoted to the second place in the kingdom. Darius really liked Daniel, and as a result of this, he's the right-hand man, just like Joseph was. The three men under Daniel became jealous, and they tricked the king into signing this decree. And to sign this decree that was wicked. So in the words of Uncle Jesse from Dukes of Hazzard, they chucked and they jived this king. They tell that Daniel realized that his continual prayer, as his custom had been, would lead him to cast him to the lion's den. So no matter what, Daniel still did that, what he was accustomed to. And as a result of this, the angel of the Lord, he got thrown in the lion's den. The angel of the Lord delivered him. As a result, the king came and promoted Daniel even to a higher level. And I'm kicking myself is because I forgot to do the scripture reading first. But it's Daniel chapter 6. And then I'm going to get right into the lesson. Little thing, sorry about that. But Daniel chapter 6, and what I want to do is, it just does not do it justice if I just read part of the chapter. I like to read the whole chapter. It's only 28 verses, so here we go. It pleased Darius to set over the kingdom 120 princes, which should be over the whole kingdom, and these three presidents, of whom Daniel was first. That the princes might give account unto them, and the king should have no damage. Then this Daniel was preferred above the presidents and princes because of an insolent spirit which was in him. The king thought to set him above the whole realm. Then the presidents and the princes sought to find occasion against Daniel concerning the kingdom. But here's the thing, but they could not find none occasion nor fault, for as much as he was faithful. Neither was there any error or fault found in him. This means that he wasn't sinless. They just couldn't find anything to use against him. Then said these men, we shall not find any occasion against Daniel except we find it against him concerning the law of his God. Then these presidents and princes assembled together to the king and said thus unto him, King Darius, live forever. All the presidents of the kingdom and the governors and the princes, the counselors and the captains have consulted together to establish a royal standard and to make a firm decree that whosoever shall ask a petition of any god or man for 30 days, save thee, O king, he shall now be cast into the den of lions. Now here's the thing about it. They did not do this just to make King Darius feel about him good by himself. They had an ulterior motive. What they did is they stoked up. They stoked up. That's the word I want to use. The pride of the king. Now, O king, establish the creed and sign the writing that it be not changed according to the law of Medes and Persia, which altereth not. Now, this thing that they wanted him to do was, you can find this in Esther chapter 1, verse 19, chapter 8, verses 8. And what this decree was, it was so binding that the king himself could not change it. And I kind of got to thinking about this, and there are some things that God has decreed upon himself that it cannot be changed. And I was thinking about Hebrews chapter 6, verses 18. And I said, if I'm not, okay, the immutable things, two immutable things. Let me see. It's impossible for God to lie, and that we have a strong consolation. We can have a strong comfort from him. It's impossible for God to lie. Titus 1:2, if I'm not mistaken, that in which was from the beginning, the eternal life that was promised, which God cannot lie, that was from the beginning of the world. That's his paraphrasing. And that's the thing about it. God cannot lie. And that's just a great thing to know. And here's the thing. Wherefore King Darius signed the writing. Now this is a very important verse right here. Verse 10. Now when Daniel knew that the writing was signed, he went into his house, his windows being open in his chambers toward Jerusalem. He kneeled upon his knee 3 times a day, and prayed and gave thanks before God, as he did aforetime. So when Daniel heard about this, it was just like Hananiah, Azariah, and Mishael. They knew the consequences if they didn't bow down to that golden image. Daniel knew the consequences, and yet they defied the king. I mean, think about that. They defied the king. Daniel, and he's just going to keep on doing what he had done before. There's no use. He didn't have to think with himself like, man, should I just keep on praying? Maybe I should hide and then I can still pray. No, he didn't, folks. He opened the windows to let all people see, and he kept on doing as he did as aforetime. And then these men assembled and found Daniel praying and making supplications for his God. And then they came near and spoke before the king concerning the king's decree. Hast thou not signed a decree that every man that shall ask a petition of any god or man within 30 days, save thee, O king, shall be cast into the dens of lions? The king answered and said, the thing is true according to the law of Medes and Persia, which alter it not. So, they wanted to reassure the king. They wanted to let the king know, hey, didn't you say this? And, of course, the king realized that that decree could not be altered. Then answered they, and they said before the king, that Daniel, which is one of the children of the captivity of Judah, regarded not thee, O king, nor the decree that thou hast signed, but hast making his petitions 3 times a day. And then I like this right here. This is the king's response to it. Then the king, when he heard these words, was sore displeased within himself. And what I like about that is, obviously, he had a great amount of respect for Daniel, that he wasn't mad at Daniel. He said, oh, that Daniel, look what he done. Couldn't he have just prayed to me? No. He was sore displeased within himself, because he had realized that what had just happened, that he had been deceived. And I think he knew it at this. And then, here's what he did. He was sore displeased with himself and set his heart on Daniel to deliver him. I mean, he tried to do all in his power that he could do to deliver Daniel. And he labored until the going down of the sun to deliver him. I mean, who knows how long. He worked hard because he wanted to save Daniel. Daniel was a good man. And then these men assembled, and these were evil men. I mean, evil. Then these men assembled unto the king and said unto the king, Know, O king, that the law of Medes and Persia is that no decree nor statute which the king established may be changed. Now here's the thing. Then the king commanded that they brought Daniel, and they cast him into the den of lions. Now the king spake and said unto Daniel, I like this. I got this underlined in my Bible. The God, thy God, which thou servest continually, he will deliver thee. And a stone was brought and laid upon the mouth of the den, and the king sealed it with his own signet, and with the signet of his Lord. The purpose might not be changed concerning Daniel. Then the king went into his palace, and said, I like this, and he passed the night fasting. That means he did not eat nothing, folks. He just went out without any food. Neither were the instruments of music brought for him, and his sleep went away from him. He basically stayed up all night. Then the king arose very early in the morning and went into haste unto the den of lions. That haste means that he ran to the den of lions. And when he came to the den, he cried with a lateral voice unto Daniel. And the king spake and said unto Daniel, O Daniel, servant of the living God, is thy God whom thou servest continuing able to deliver thee from the lions? And then Daniel said unto the king, O king, live forever. My God has sent his angel, and has shut the lion's mouth, that they have not hurt me, for as much as before him intercede was found in me, and also before thee, O king, have I done no hurt. Then the king was exceedingly glad, for he had commanded that they should take Daniel up and out of the den. So Daniel was taken up out of the den, and no manner of hurt was found upon him, because he believed in his God. And the king commanded that they that brought those men which accursed Daniel, and had cast him into the den of the lions, them, their children, and their wives, and the lions had the mastery over them, break all their bones in pieces, and ever they came at the bottom of the den. Now, a lot of people will probably ask, what? That is a harsh thing. It would be perfectly understandable if the men should have been cast into the den, but it was their whole family. And here's the thing. I think what Darius was trying to establish is, and we'll get into it. You mess with Daniel's God, you're barking up the wrong tree. You're asking for as I say, a can of whipping. And then here's what happens. Then the king Darius wrote to all people, nations, and languages, and dwell in all the earth. Peace be multiplied unto you. I'll make a decree that in every dominion of my kingdom that men tremble and fear before the God of Daniel. For he is the living God, and the steadfast forever. And his kingdom that which shall not be destroyed, and his dominion shall be even unto the end. He delivereth and rescueth, and he worketh signs and wonders in heaven and in earth, and had delivered Daniel from the powers of the lions. So this Daniel prospered in the reign of Darius, in the reign of Cyrus the Persians. So, we take a look at this, and here's the thing, let me find it. Okay. Here's the thing that we can know about Daniel and how we can be like Daniel. And one of the things is that Daniel, as a youth, got into the habit of standing for what was right. So no matter what, this is like when he was brought into the kingdom. It was required of Daniel and Hananiah, Azariah, and Mishael to eat of the king's meat and drink the wine. But see, Daniel had purpose in his heart that he wasn't not going to defile his body with the king's meat. So as a process of that, he took that stand. And see, now he's able to be able to stand for the big things. And here's the thing, folks. Forgive me, you got to stand for something or you'll fall for anything. So, it's important. We got to take a stand on the Word of God. It is the infallible, inerrant, inspired Word of God. We got to take a stand on Jesus Christ as the way, the truth, and the life. And there's no other way to Him. If there was any other way to God besides Jesus, then the death of Jesus Christ is pointless, is vain, and we are fools for following after Jesus. We take a stand on that. We take a stand on soul winning. Soul winning is important. We take a stand. There's so many things to take a stand for. Take a stand, but stand up more importantly for God. Let's see. Here's the thing. The reason why you want to start standing for the little things, it's hard to try to stand when big things come. One is not likely all of a sudden to start standing for the right in the big testing if he's not conditioned to stand for the right in the little testing. And here's the thing, folks. This is in chapter 6. Daniel did not decide to take a stand in chapter 6. He did it in chapter 1 before he decided to go into the lion's den. He did right in the little cases and was conditioned, trained, and strengthened to do right in the big cases. So what you have to learn is you got to learn how to fight the little things. Because I'm going to tell you what, the little things does matter. It's not the big things that will get you, it's the little things. When you learn how to stand for the little things, then you work yourself up to be able to stand for the big things. And some of the things you have to learn how to do is pray. Broken record, I'll be a broken record. Pray, read your Bible, go to church. Church is just not to be just a social event. It's there where we can be with like-minded Christians, where we can learn about God, where we can grow. Daniel has stood right through the years. We ought to thank God for those that are able to stand right through the years. Daniel was a good worker in both kingdoms. He had been a great man in the Babylonian kingdom that had been conquered. And you think about this, after that kingdom fell, another king, and then another king. And true reality, folks, He should have been killed after Babylon failed, after Nebuchadnezzar failed. But this was like God watching over him. And his thing. But Daniel was a hard worker. He did his job well. And see, I think the Odyssey King saw this. And plus, God was watching over him. God's providence was upon Daniel. And here's the thing about it, Daniel was a good worker. And as Christians, and so I fall short of this, but as Christians, we should be the best and hardest workers for our companies. We should have such a good record that our supervisor, our boss man, our lead person can talk good about this. Daniel had a good spirit. In fact, in Daniel chapter 3b, an excellent spirit was in him. This is a tremendous statement. Not only did he stand, but he had a good spirit. It's easy for us as Christians to become fundamental and not have the proper spirit. It's good to be a fundamentalist, but if you don't have compassion, then you're left off as a cold-hearted person. There's separation where you separate yourself from the world, but you need separation and you need compassion. You need to realize you need to have compassion on a person that is lost. In a sense, a lost person don't know that they're lost. They don't know that they're blind. And we have no right to think that we're a holier than thou sister brother better than you over people that are lost. Because the only difference between us and the lost sinner is we are sinners saved by grace. We need to have that excellent spirit. We need to have a spirit of love, a spirit of cooperation, a spirit of humility. Humility is a big thing that we need. I know I've been guilty myself. And boy, God has caught me, and I have caught myself where I began to think that I'm better than somebody else. And then I realized God thumped me on the head and said, boy, you can't do that. And then I realized within myself, I know what I'm doing now. And God, forgive me. Humility is a big thing. Humility is better to develop. Humility is a characteristic. And it's better to have characteristics than talent. A lot of people like to focus on their talents. I'm going to tell you right now, character will develop talent. Talent developed first will usually see the need, so they need no need for a character. Character has eyes, talent is blind. I remember when a former pastor here, Brother Carver, went up to Howes Anderson University, or Howes Anderson's. There's a guy there that he went to school with. This man, what Brother Carver told me was, man, he had talent. It was coming all out. He could sing, he could preach, he could teach, he could play the piano. He was just blessed with talent. And then what happened is the counselor talked to him and he asked him a question. He says, so why should God use you? And I kid you not, this is what Brother Carver told me. This fellow said, God would be a fool not to use me. You see what talent did to that man? I'm pretty sure that he got put up on the shelf and God didn't use him. And that was because he lacked humility. He was full of pride with his talent. Now, let's see. Now, bear in mind, they are not good substitutes for standing. Daniel stood. Now, some of us would consider us to be stubborn for taking the stand as Christians, as a Christian, being a fundamentalist. But you know what? And they would even call us closed-minded. But as the saying goes, it takes one to know one. I'm not closed-minded. I've decided to take a stand on what I believe is what is right and what is wrong. Just as anybody else that, they might have a different viewpoint. And they're doing the same thing. I want to take a stand, but yet, folks, when we take a stand, let's do it with a sense of humility. There are some things we're standing for, but let's do this with a good spirit, folks. Let's not be mean, nasty, high-minded people. Let's not think that because we're saved that we're better than other people. And like I said, we're not. As Christians, we are sinners saved by grace. And that's the only difference we have. Once again, that's the difference between a lost sinner and a saved sinner. They are saved by grace. I want to make this, the cross is even at the ground. God is not a respecter of no person. He calls it to rain on the unjust and the just. Because of Daniel's promotion and because of his excellent spirit, he was envied and hated by those that were under him. The partiality of the king toward Daniel made him the object of envy in other presidents and leaders. Because they were envious, jealous, they sought to hurt him. Here's the thing: when you start standing up for what's right, when you start standing up by like today's world, when you say like homosexuality is wrong or transgenderism is wrong, they don't like that. In fact, as Ecclesiastes chapter 4b, it says, "Every right work that for this is a man is envy of his neighbor." People don't like it when you stand up for what is right. Men love the darkness rather than the light. So when we stand up against sin, people don't like that. People don't want to hear that drinking beer and being a drunkard is a sin. People don't want to hear that fornication is wrong. That's sex before marriage. There's even people that don't want to hear that adultery is wrong. And sadly, there are people that have sexual relations while they are married, and that is a sin not just against God, against you, against the person you're married to. The act of adultery does not have individual results. You're just not hurting yourself; you're hurting other people. They could find no fault in Daniel. And it's kind of amazing that as they could not find no fault in Daniel, they could not find a fault like in Joseph. In fact, it says, the thing about Joseph is you got 13 chapters on Joseph, and yet you cannot find sin. Now, he did sin, because the Bible says, "For all have sinned to come short of the glory of God." But here's what it says in Daniel chapter 6, verse 5. Then they said, these men, "We shall not find any occasion against this Daniel, except we find it against him concerning the law of his God." This is a tremendous statement. There is no blemish. They could find no blemish in him. Now, he was not perfect, but they couldn't find any fault with him. And here's the question: can that be said of me? Can somebody look at me and find any fault or any blemish? Can they find any fault in you? And here's the thing about it: the reason why is he was faithful to the king. Faithfulness is a big thing. A faithful man who can find. And folks, we need to be faithful. As Christians, we need to be faithful on many things. Faithful to pay our bills. Faithful to go to church. Faithful to read our Bible. Faithful to read. Faithful to work. Faithful to pay our tithes. My tithes, I like to give 10%. The word tithe, it does mean a tenth. I do this because, one, it's commanded, and secondly, it's a way for me to really show my thanks towards God. But he was faithful. They were against his faithfulness to God as a crime. They attacked his religion. And I want to tell you, folks, Christianity is under attack today. We're under attack from all fronts. We're attacked from the atheists, from the secularism, from humanism, the LGBTQ. I tell you, that's a lot of letters on there. They're against us, and they want to attack us because of what we stand for. Now, I'm going to tell you once again, if you're a homosexual, that's your choice. If you want to live that life, so be it. But if you can say I'm wrong and I can't say the same thing, that's being a bigot. And I remember reading an article where they had this movie. It's about the gay conversion movie. It's about these two girls getting caught kissing each other, and they're sent off to a place where they're supposed to be converted from being lesbians. To me, that word gay, the true meaning of gay is colorful, cheerful, and happy. And to me, that movie right there is an attack against Christianity. And it's because there are actual churches out there that wants to help people. And there are people out there that don't want to. There are men out there that don't want to be a homosexual. There are women that don't want to be a lesbian. But yet, the LGBTQ, if I said that right, don't want this to happen. And here's the thing. We are under attack. And as Christians, we need to band together and we need to take a stand. Let's see. It's an excellent thing and certainty to be the glory of God when those who profess Christianity conduct themselves in such a manner in their whole conversations that the most watchful, critical enemies find no occasion for blaming them. This is going back to where they could not find no fault in Daniel. And what they did is, in order to try to get at Daniel, well, let me put this first. In other words, the only criticism that they could come was that he was a fanatic and that he was devoted to his God. This is happening today. If you stand for the true Christian religion, it's going to come to a point where you're going to be called a fanatic. All right? In order to try to get to Daniel, they tricked the king into signing this decree. A decree that could not be changed. And they did that because they knew what Daniel did. He prayed 3 times a day. The reason why Daniel did this was because when the Jews were in distant countries in prayer, they turned their face towards Jerusalem. And that's the reason why he did that. Solomon said this: God hear the prayers of those who might be in strange lands or in captivity, that when they should turn their faces towards their own land, which God gave unto their fathers, and towards the city which he had chosen, and the house which he dedicated his name. So here it was. Daniel was in a foreign land, so he was doing that which he was doing, which was right. And think about it, in doing this, just like Hananiah, Azariah, and Mishael, they stood against the king's decree. Daniel did nothing different to be cast into the dens of lions or to stand the test. So what he did was, we should think is right before the testing time, and comes and continue what is right when the testing time comes. Now, we shouldn't be looking for a fight. We shouldn't be looking for a time of testing, because when you start looking for a fight, you can lose, folks. So learn how to stand. Learn how to resist the little things, the little temptation, and then when the big temptation comes, you have a better chance of standing against. Now, that don't mean you're going to sin. I mean, like I said, if we do sin, we have 1 John 1:9. So we should just simply do what is right to do, and that was the case with Daniel. Now, if we look at Daniel's prayer life, he prayed in house. Of course, you don't have to just pray in your house. You can pray anywhere. In every prayer, he gave thanks. And this is something that we should do. We should give thanks for God. And one of the things that we should thank God for is saving us from being a hell-bound, hell-to-serving sinners, giving us his only begotten Son to die for our sins. And then, to give thanks for all that he has provided. That house you got, that car you got, that job you got, the clothes on you, the shoes on your feet, the food on your table. You didn't get that. That was from God. God gave you the ability. So in everything we should give thanks. Now he prayed on his knees. Now I'm going to tell you right now, it's not the position that matters. It's the condition of the heart. The position doesn't matter. The condition of the heart does. Now, the great thing about praying on your knees is a sign of humility. All right? He did this 3 times a day. Evening, morning, and noon I will pray. Pray without ceasing, folks. The key word in all Daniel's standards are found in Daniel. This is the key word in Daniel. As he did aforetime. He did what was usual for him to do. And then if we looked at it, he got a promotion. God sent his angel to Daniel. Darius was convinced that Daniel's God was a living God. And of course, he gave that decree, and he said, I make a decree that in every dominion of my kingdom, men tremble and fear before the God of Daniel, for he is a living God, and steadfast forever, and his kingdom that which shall not be destroyed, and his dominion shall be even unto the end. Now here's the thing. Darius was able to see that Daniel served a living God. Can people say the same of you? Here's the great thing. This is Darius' decree. There's a sevenfold decree of Daniel's God, of our God that we serve. All men must tremble before God of Daniel and fear him. He is a living God. God is not dead. He's alive. He's a steadfast God, steadfast forever. He's loyal. His kingdom is eternal. He delivers from danger. He works signs and wonders, and he had delivered Daniel from the lions. And because of this, Daniel was promoted. And, the question is, with Darius, that's the end of the lesson. With Darius, I would like to think that he got saved, but there's question in there. I think of all the kings, Nebuchadnezzar was the one that got saved. But, here's some good examples of Daniel, and let us strive. There's nothing wrong with trying to emulate Daniel. Daniel was a man that stood for what was right, no matter, even though it would cost him his life. So, kind of a lengthy lesson. I want to, if you watch all of this, once again, I'll never cease to say this. My voice is getting ready to go out. I feel like it. Thank you for taking your time to watch this. God bless you, and you have a good day.